So just,
My computer's gonna.
All right, we'll go ahead and call to order the planning board meeting for Wednesday, February 21st. First item, going over correspondence. So we had the agenda for this meeting. We had the hasty decision letter from last meeting. That's all good, right?
Yep, this
Okay.
was sent to the applicant.
Perfect.
Pretty sure the property's already been sold.
yep, all done.
We had the maps from, the emailed maps from Maine Water. They're here, so we'll discuss that during their pre-application meeting. And the FEMA floodplain proposed ordinance. We also have the current ordinance that's in effect. So there's two ordinances here. So the one that has a signature on the first page is the one that's currently in effect, and then the one that doesn't have anything filled in on the first page is the proposed ordinance. And then we had a litany of minutes, 5, 4, 5, 5. We have October 18th, December 6th, special meeting, December 20th, January 17th, and February 7th. So we have all the those meeting minutes to catch up on. So I guess we'll jump right into reviewing those and approving those. We had October 18th minutes first. I don't know if everybody got a chance to go through them,
Yep. Yeah,
but take a motion to approve.
motion to approve.
Second, all in favor? Approved. On to December 6th, that was the special the special meeting that we had, because we didn't have a quorum at the end of November there, so this was our regular meeting, but we had it on December 6th. So again, got these were all in single email, so I'll take a motion to approve on those.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Approved. We have the regular meeting on December 20th. It's one page, front and back. Same thing. I'll take a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor? We have Wednesday, January 17th. This is our regular January. Sorry, the hasty letter was the 18th.
Correct.
Does that matter?
So that's the date I sent it.
Got it. Beautiful.
I didn't actually do it on the 7th.
Not a problem, just making sure. So I'll take a motion to approve on the January 17th.
Motion to- I'll second it.
All in favor? Approved. And then the February 7th, so this is the, when Lee came in for SMPDC, the workshop minutes. I'll take a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Beautiful. All right, first item of old business is LD 2003 land use ordinance changes, SMPDC updates. So we received, or we had Lee in during the workshop at the beginning of the month. He had talked to us, kind of walked through the whole document, which was super helpful. And there were 5 items that that we had authority over in his changes that weren't sort of related to the law. These were things that we had or could impact, and some of them I think were relatively important because the first one was maximum and minimum lot sizes for ADUs. So this is, right now it says the accessory dwelling unit shall not be greater than 800 square feet in living area, and the minimum size shall be 410. And so he had mentioned that the reason that he had done the 410 as the minimum is because tiny homes can be up to 400. And so if we do the 410, it eliminates somebody just doing a slab in a tiny home and having, you know, the ADUs just be a bunch of tiny homes added on. And so he had recommended that that's why he had put the 410 in there instead of the 190 that the law allows you to go down to as a minimum. You know, I'll let others speak, but I thought the 410, you know, the argument for doing the 410 was sound, right? Not having a bunch of tiny home as the ADU was a good minimum limit to put in there. And then for the maximum, 800 square feet is what he had originally proposed, and didn't have a lot of say either way as to that. He didn't have, there was more talk around the minimum than the maximum. But I think I was comfortable with the 800. I mean,
I was.
yeah. And so, and I,
Personally, hear of it, but it sounds good.
yeah, it just, it kind of prevents you from building, you know, a giant, you know, single family home. So having two,
Right. More of an
You
addition
know.
situation.
right. And so it's more of an addition, more of a, you know, smaller building
In an
than,
apartment or something.
exactly.
Cool.
The other pieces were having a requirement for foundation, frost wall, slab. He said he did not include that, but he's had other municipalities include that in there, that if you're building either an extension or a standalone ADU, that there's a requirement that it has that either a foundation, a frost wall, or a slab that is placed on that rather than, and so it creates the permanence. So it basically prevents somebody from adding an ADU and then later removing it, or trying to pass it off as
Existing.
as something that's existing there, right? So that was why he said that. Yes, so prevent, and then he said you can also include language that prevents the ADU from becoming a primary dwelling. So language where, you know, somebody builds puts a tiny home or a smaller, you know, say a 600 square foot building on a property and then rents out their primary home. You can put language in there that prevents, prevents them from doing that, where the ADU becomes the primary dwelling and the primary now is the accessory unit.
Do we really care? Because there's still gonna be 2 units there.
I don't know that we do. Yeah, and
In general, I guess I should say, does anyone have a problem with that? I personally don't.
right, no, and that was kind of where I was thinking when he was going through that is, you know, if somebody's living in a house that's too big for them and they want to put, you know, a 600, 800, whatever the limit is, foot home as an accessory dwelling unit and then rent out their larger home, you know, I wouldn't want to necessarily prevent somebody from doing that.
I agree.
And then for the subdivision ordinance, having limits on ADUs and HOAs, and you can put it as you can put it in the deed as a condition of approval. So this was specifically around subdivisions having limits on ADUs, so preventing somebody from coming in and, you know, subdividing a property, putting a primary home on all the lots, and then putting also an ADU, and basically building a subdivision that's twice the size that would otherwise normally be allowed. So you could limit the number of ADUs in a subdivision, or, and then in order to prevent somebody from creating the subdivision and then coming to the planning board, you know, a year later and wanting to put in an ADU, have it as a condition of approval in their deed that that property can't have it.
Right.
And so he suggested that that was something that we consider as well, because I mean, it just prevents that significant amount of growth in that subdivision. Most subdivisions that are in place have those protections existing, and he said that those would supersede any laws that are standing. So if, like, my HOA subdivision says that you can only have one single family residence per lot, I would not be able, even with the new laws, I would not be able to put an ADU on my lot. And so this was not going to change anything for those, which was different from the original guidance that they had said to us, which was good, because that we were concerned that this was going to supersede all that and potentially cause issues there. So we like 800, we like 410, is what I'm hearing.
Yep.
Why wouldn't we stay with the 600 minimum?
So 600 minimum is for if you're building, right?
Right.
And so
This is just for the ADU.
this is just for ADUs, and this prevents any issues if you're adding on, say, like a mother-in-law apartment or doing something above a garage. And so that was the only difference there, between doing the 410 and doing the 600. We could do 600, but
600 would be the primary dwelling, and you could add a 410 square foot ADU.
correct. Yeah, and so those would both be the minimums, right? Yeah, so if you were doing a new build, not all the other parts of LD 2003 that allows for up to 4 units for certain lot sizes, but not taking that into account if you were just doing a single building with a mother-in-law apartment, say, so you could build 1,010 foot and it would be right at the minimum of what you could do. Yeah. So I guess what we should do is vote to accept those as the max and minimum. So take a vote for maximum lot size of ADUs of 800 and minimum lot size of ADUs of 410.
Good. I make a motion to accept it.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay. And then we said on the prevention of becoming a primary dwelling, we're not going to entertain that. I'm good with that. Foundation frost wall slab requirement. That's feels pretty simple, Jesse, right? I mean, that's just,
Lasting slab, insulated slab.
yeah.
Yep.
And so we'll just need, I guess, discussion on that one. If you guys good with
I'm
that?
going to show that.
Okay. So just need a motion to put in the requirement of having a foundation, frost wall, or slab.
I'll make the motion to require frost wall or slab.
I second it.
Perfect. All in favor?
I would specify that as insulated slab. Isn't just one slab on the ground and building.
I amend my motion to make that an insulated slab.
I second it.
Okay. And then, so to vote on the amendment. So all in favor of the amendment to have it be an insulated slab? And then all in favor of having the requirement of a foundation, frost wall, or insulated slab? There we go.
We'll get there.
Insulated slab.
Jesse.
And then ADU limits for subdivision ordinance, and then requiring a condition of requiring it as a deed restriction in the conditions of approval. Then, should it be, trying to remember if he said this should be a percentage or? That was the one thing I didn't capture.
Further looking into on that one.
Yeah, because it would have been a percentage, right? It would have been a percent, because it wouldn't make sense to have it be a limit as a certain number, because if you're doing a subdivision of three units, and you have a limit of 3 ADUs versus you're doing 10 units and you have a limit of 3. So it should be a percentage.
It specifically states in subdivision law that they're all single-family dwelling lots.
Yeah,
So
Didn't we discuss that?
change the subdivision rules.
I think that's, Jesse has a point. Isn't that what we decided that we weren't going to we didn't need to deal with because that subdivision laws would prevent it?
is that where that went?
Yeah.
Okay. I just had that written down. And so that's in our subdivision ordinance, that single family, okay. All right, so that's all right. So that covers everything there. So I will get back to him with those changes and hopefully get a finalized draft for us to vote on for next meeting. And then we can get together for a special town meeting to get that and the floodplain ordinance updates done. All right. And then next item of new business, we have site plan review, Maine Water Company. Applicant is Wright Pierce. This is map U3, lot 8 on Powerhouse Road.
Are we good to sit right here, or where's the person?
No, you're good.
I just want to make sure it's a pre-app meeting, not an actual site plan review meeting.
Oh, okay. Pre-app meeting. Gotcha. Got it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Mike Cummins. I'm a vice president of Maine Water Company. I have Dan Flagg with Wright Pierce, Emma Sheffield with Wright Pierce, and Dylan Doherty, who's our superintendent here in Keyser Falls. Just a little bit of background for those who don't know. We serve as a public water utility for the Keyser Falls Village, providing water service in Parsonsfield, Porter, and Hiram. Our office is headquartered in Saco, Maine. We employ about 80 Mainers who work as water professionals in 22 communities across the state. The Keyser Falls system has approximately 400 service connections, 46 public fire hydrants, and 2 concrete storage tanks, which are used to maintain pressure in the system, as well as provide enough water storage for firefighting in the community. The system is served from 3 water sources located on Powerhouse Hill, 3 wells near the Ossipee River, and we produce an average daily amount of about 100,000 gallons per day. Out of these 3 wells, only one really provides the capacity needed to serve the community here. And over the last 15 years, we've experienced a steady decline in that primary well, which is typical for a well of this age. The well is over 75 years old, and it's quickly reaching its end of useful life. We did highlight the replacement of these 3 wells in our capital improvement plan. The plan was published in 2022. The project is critical, absolutely critical for us to continue to provide public water service and public fire protection to the community. So that's the reasoning behind the project. In 2023, We worked with Wright Pierce Engineering to locate 2 suitable replacement well sites on the property. Our drilling and testing has really given us the confidence that we have new sources that can really more than meet the future needs of the community from a water capacity standpoint. These wells have been approved by our state drinking water regulators in Maine, which is the Maine Drinking Water Program. And our ultimate goal here is to get these wells online and to have them providing water to the community just as soon as possible. So now that we've got the new sources available to make this happen, we need to replace our pumping and treatment facility as well, which is also approaching its end of useful life. The facility, it's lacking long-term structural integrity. It's very hard to access and maintain. It's a difficult building to maneuver around for our operators. It also doesn't have backup power, which is really a modern day standard for all water systems to have backup power. Nor does it have an electrical supply or an electrical setup that lets us do that. Our project, it consists of a new building on our existing property. It's just over 1,200 square feet, a water treatment and pumping facility. And we would connect the new sources to this facility. Our ideal project schedule is to have the bid ready plans and documents by sometime in March of this year, to put the project out to bid in April, and then begin construction in the summer or fall of 2024. Our goal is to have substantial completion by spring or summer of 2025 and to have this facility running with the new wells. I do want to note this project, it was awarded a federal grant and low interest loan dollars from the state revolving fund that's administered by the Maine Drinking Water Program. So that's good news for the community. But that's the background for the project. Like I said, we have Wright Pierce here. They're overseeing our permitting, design, and project administration for the project. So I'll turn it over to them.
All right, perfect.
Awesome.
So if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to, the plans that are in the packet, the 4 drawings I have as a kind of a big version on the poster board. Could I bring the easel right up front here?
Yeah.
I may not be able to see it all on the camera, but I think it would help,
Packet.
help me kind of walk the board through this.
They're the ones that
In the
were
email.
emailed out.
Oh,
Yeah, these are all the plans that were already emailed. So.
We were all like, what packet?
What's that?
I didn't print them because I figured 8.5 by 11 would be kind of small.
yeah.
Is that the day you flooded us with packets?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, look, there's Alan's home.
Yep.
You okay?
Alan out on his lawn.
I know it's probably in the packet, but before we get too far away and I forget, you said your new facility is going to be 1,200 square feet.
Yeah, roughly, it's actually closer to 1,300 to be accurate.
What is your old facility?
Don't have that number off the top of my head. It's probably less than 1,000. There's
Okay.
2 buildings.
Yeah.
I sent it over on 2/15.
Got it.
So just to orient before I get started, that the existing facilities are 2 small buildings down here within the shoreline zone of the Ossipee Reservoir. And then this is the garage for the hydropower facility. They own the powerhouse road. Maine Water has an easement to use that road, so.
Grandfather.
What's that?
Definitely grandfather. Been there a while.
Yeah.
So just to kind of get started, just a few specifics. So the lot that we're proposing to develop here is actually Lot 8, Map U3, 2.96 acres. Zoning district is village. The proposed use is a public utility facility, which is a permitted use that requires site plan approval. So this is a pre-application process tonight, first step of a 2-step process. As far as shoreland zoning district, we are not developing within the shoreland zone. The existing facility is in the shoreland zone. So that's one of the benefits of this project, is to get out of the floodplain, get out of the shoreland zoning. So as Mike stated, that really we're trying to develop a new treatment facility to treat the two new wells for the facility. The 2 wells are right here. There's a gravel well that was installed. The other well was installed up on the hill here. This gravel access road was installed to allow drilling of this well. So these are the two wells here. The existing well is down by the facility down here. And there's one up in here that's been abandoned. So these are the two wells, just to orient you to the site. So we're proposing, it's a single-story building. There's a building elevation I'll show you shortly, about 1,300 square feet. What we are focused on as far as developing the site, this is a former excavation pit in this area that's been allowed to grow up as woods. So there's a lot of mature 70, 80-foot tall pine trees. But if you go over there, you'll see that you can see the remnants of the old pit that was excavated. I'm assuming it was gravel. But what we're trying to do is, we got our well here. This side of the property is important for wellhead protection, for the source and the aquifer in this area. And we focus on trying to redevelop a previously excavated area of the property. And the goal would be to maintain, and there may be some updates to the wellhead protection ordinance because of these two new wells that, the remaining wooded property on this lot and also across the street. Maine Water's goal would be to maintain that as a wooded buffer for source protection. So there's not a grand plan to, for further development because we have to protect the investment of these new well sources. So we have gone through the ordinance. We checked to make sure our design that we currently have proposed meets all the dimensional standards for setbacks. We are meeting the front setback and the side setbacks from property lines. The building height is a single-story building with a 6-pitch roof. So I think the overall height of the building to the peak is probably roughly 17 feet or so. But it's a typical single-story structure, 30 by 42, I think is the overall footprint. We do believe, looking at the definition, and we want a kind of concurrence from you tonight, is that we believe this meets the definition of a minor development because it's less than 5,000 square feet of impervious area. So we have a table here. So the proposed clearing limits is 0.3 acres of that excavated area, former excavated area. The disturbed area is slightly higher, 0.34. That's just for additional gravel area and grading. And then the impervious area is 4,530 square feet, so just 1/10 of an acre. So I think your ordinance classifies anything less than 5,000 square feet as a minor development, if I'm not mistaken. So that was one thing we just wanted to get concurrence from the board tonight. The good thing is that, we've also reviewed the DEP requirements. We did a wetlands delineation. There's no wetlands on the property in this area that we're proposing to develop. And as far as stormwater, since we're such a small footprint of a project in low impervious area, we don't have to do any stormwater treatment as far as DEP standards, and we don't believe we have to do anything as far as the local standards. Once I get to the site plan, because it is a former excavated gravel pit, there's actually a low spot in the back of the site development. So most of that stormwater we're channeling, and we're going to have a culvert, and it's going to just continue to infiltrate on the property itself. So we're not generating a lot of stormwater that's going to spill out in the Powerhouse Road or anything like that. And then the driveway will be paved. It'll be big enough so you can come in and do the plowing, and they do get periodic chemical deliveries that are happening now, and they'll just be going to this new facility versus the one down by the reservoir. So the paved area is big enough. Typical chemical deliveries come on a box truck with a lift gate, that sort of thing. And then the operators, this is not going to be a facility where the operators are going to be there full time, but they check in at least once a day, and you probably see the Maine Water trucks around town. There's really nothing with this facility that we're proposing to change any patterns of truck traffic or any of those sorts of things. We're just modernizing the infrastructure that they currently have. So there's not going to be any increase in traffic or increasing chemical deliveries. We're basically sticking with the same chemical treatment processes. We're not expanding. So we're going to have more chemical deliveries. It's just going to be a more modern facility. Mike had said one of the important aspects of this project is that the existing facility doesn't have an emergency backup generator if there's a power failure. So we have incorporated a propane generator as part of this project. And one thing that we've been doing as standard practice now is that we go with a level 2 sound attenuated closure. So the generator itself is all insulated on the inside, and you can hardly hear the things running. So that's something we always do, and we're mindful of that, particularly with, the residential area that surrounds the property. One thing for security, it is a main water standard, but it really is an industry standard. We are providing a chain link fence around the facility with a locked gate. Now, if you go over there today, there's a gate there that blocks access. So the plan is, the power company is interested in replacing that gate with the same type of gate. So the thought is that that's probably going to be replaced. But as part of this project, as you go inside the gate that's there today, the driveway to this facility will be on the left, and then there'll be a separate slide gate. And it's just going to be a manually open gate that's going to remain locked when main water is not on site. Okay.
Are you buffering anything for your propane tank area?
Yep. So this is the kind of the limit of the gravel pit that's out there today.
Yep.
So we're maintaining, and again, this is an aerial image that has all the foliage shown on the trees. So we had scaled off about 65 feet of the trees that are there now remaining. However, if you go out there today, because they're a lot of them are pine trees, so one of our thoughts, if the board concurred or recommended, we could also provide a screening stockade fence on the inside of that clearing limit in addition to the natural buffer that we're remaining. So that is something that we had thought about. But we are maintaining, I think the standard in the ordinance is to maintain a minimum 25-foot natural tree buffer or alternative landscaping. So I believe we are meeting that standard. So this is the aerial. You can see the property line here. This is just the tax map, so this is not a survey grade property line.
I think my question was more, it looks like from the drawing I'm looking at, it just sits right off your parking area.
Yep.
Are you going to fence it in, concrete barriers, keep people from backing into it or anything like that?
Yeah, so here's kind of a blow up of the site plan.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Yep. So yeah, we have bollards. There's a bollards for the propane tanks and the bollards for the generator. These little dots here. Yep. So typically we make those, we use the plastic yellow, safety yellow covers that we put on those. So there will be bollards there. We also have a holding tank. So there will be a half bathroom facility here with a sink for doing the water sampling and so forth. Because of the drinking water program rules with wellhead protection, we wanted to avoid having a leach field. So there is an option in the plumbing code to do a holding tank. You have to follow the plumbing code standards. We did do that, and we have the kind of all the documentation for that. And basically, it's a 2,000-gallon holding tank, and it has a float switch in there, and there's a requirement that it has to be inspected on a routine basis and pumped out a minimum of once a year. So that's all been designed and would be installed in accordance with the plumbing code. Now the operator is only going to be using this facility, checking in once a day or so forth. So this is oftentimes used, this strategy, when we are working on the well site to avoid having septic systems. Because one of the things with the wellhead protection ordinance and the approval for these wells is the critical area for wellhead protection is a radius within 300 feet of the well. So.
Know it well.
Yep, yeah. So they don't want leach fields within that So that's a common strategy that's used, so. So this is kind of the paved, the other reason for the paved area, with the chemical deliveries, there's pallets of dry chemical that they use to mix in a tank. And there's going to be like a electric pallet jack that's going to roll that into the building. So we wanted to have a nice level surface for smooth transition into the building. And then obviously when trucks are here, they'll be parked periodically when the operators are working in there. But it's going to be more of a transient type of operation. They're not going to be staging there all day long, because the operators that operate this site, they also operate Freiburg and also Freeport, right? So, and Dylan's kind of in charge of that operation. So these guys they're working around those systems. So on here, so here's the low spot in the back of the facility, and this is where we're going to be channeling, our stormwater in this direction, picking up that stormwater and then letting it naturally discharge in the back here. And it's all nice free draining soil, so it'll all just infiltrate back into the ground. And do you have any more questions on that plan?
No.
Okay. Let me just look at the building elevations here. So I know that oftentimes these two-dimensional engineered drawings are kind of hard to interpret what it actually is going to look like when it's built. One of the things that one of our goals is to, when we come back in a few weeks for the site plan review, our goal is to do a three-dimensional what they call a three-dimensional rendering drawing of the facility, to kind of give you a visual of, this is really what it's going to look like. We find that's been effective to communicate with people. But basically, if you look at the facility, when you drive up to it, this is the front. So you got to have the double door. It's a single-story building. We have a little dormer over the door just for the rainfall shedding. This is the back of the building. There's going to be a couple heat pumps, a window on the back, and then obviously for ventilation, there's an intake louver there. And then on the south elevation, this is the side that would be facing the abutting residential property. We've avoided having a lot of utilities on this side of the building. There will be a light with a cutoff fixture in the gable end of the building. It'll just be used for maintenance. Typically, we put those on like a motion sensor or photo cell, but they can be turned off as well. There's always a selector switch there. And there will be some sort of a small exhaust fan that's associated with the mechanical ventilation on that side. But for all intents and purposes, that's going to be pretty much clear of a lot of detail on that side of the building. And then on the side facing the reservoir, there'll be another egress door into the mechanical room, and then another exhaust fan for the electrical room on this side, and the electrical service will be coming into that side as well with a meter on that side of the building. So from a scale standpoint, we're looking at a standing seam metal roof, like a charcoal or brown colored roof, and then it's going to be not vinyl siding, but we're going with like a hardy board or a cement board, clapboard type siding. Can be any color, but generally speaking, and I know a lot of the garage that's over there and their existing facilities are white now. I think some of the houses that abut are white. So generally, my expectation is probably likely to be white.
Blend in.
But, I think generally speaking, we always try to shoot for just, a neutral color. It's gray, beige, or white, for instance. But we're trying to design this so it's not a lot of maintenance for Maine Water, because operational cost is a big deal. So we're trying to design this with a metal roof and something that's, vinyl siding on a building like this can have some durability issues. Whereas this type of siding, you don't have to, it's more durable. but it's more cost effective. You don't have to repaint it all the time, like Cedar Shakes or something like that. I don't think, anything else, Emma, that comes to mind that maybe I didn't highlight that would be important to share here? So in this plan, this kind of shows the existing conditions plan and the clearing limits. We did a couple geotech borings when we did the exploration last year. One of the other important points here is that we will be upgrading the water main as part of this out to the intersection of Garner Avenue. So we fully expect to have to, we're talking with the hydro company, there's probably going to be some cost sharing of some sort. But the condition of this road is terrible. It's all rutted and alligator cracked. So we're planning to, as part of the water main installation, this road's going to be reclaimed and repaved. So this is going to be a nice paved road when it's done. And we get the water mains connecting the wells to the facility too. The access road up to this well is going to continue, just remain gravel. We are showing some grading on the plan just to soften the grade for the transition.
And that road's pretty rough and flip-flops.
Yes. I bet. Yeah. So yeah, it's in pretty rough shape. But overall, so the plan construction-wise, so our goal would be to certainly get feedback tonight. And then our goal would be to hopefully be on the agenda for the site plan review. I think it would be on the 20th. So that would be our goal, and Emma's already been working on the application. I certainly want, general feedback as part of your process tonight. I do feel comfortable. We've been through the ordinance, and I think we can check all the boxes that are required. But we certainly want any feedback from anyone tonight as we move through the process. And
So on Firehouse Road in your existing conditions drawing,
yep.
if you guys are going to pave and reclaim the road and make it nicer, which is great, are we concerned about any runoff with residentials? I'm assuming that's what's down here.
Yeah,
Corner.
we're not proposing to change any of the grades of Powerhouse Road. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in and it's pretty flat. There's really no defined ditches or anything like that. So we're going to come in, just strip the asphalt off it and get our pipe in, and then the contractor will have to reshape whatever gravel's there. And, we'll take a look at it. We might be able to, it's narrow, it's only 12 feet wide. You really can't even put a crown on it. So, it's not going to be a full depth reconstruction or anything like that. So
Shouldn't have no impact on the
No.
neighborhood.
no, because we're not proposing to, raise the grade and put ditches in there, anything like that. So, would be no impact. So just to orient, if you're familiar with the site, the existing main water storage garage is right here. The gate is here, so you have to drive by the garage to get to the gate. And then as you go through the gate, the entrance to this new facility is where the old gravel pit was, right there on the left. And then this lot here is kind of a funny L-shaped lot that goes around the garage. And then this property owner in the corner kind of owns quite a bit of this forest across the street from this facility. So.
Are there any concerns with the width of the road? Where it's now going to have propane?
It is as far as I know, Powerhouse Road is
But what about emergency vehicles if there was ever an issue?
True.
Just trying to hit everything so we don't have to
Right.
hit it next week.
yeah, Powerhouse Road is a private road owned by the hydro company, I believe. It is, the paved limits of the road are 12 feet, but I'd have to go back and look at the photos. There's quite a bit of area beyond the paved limits for, the width of the gate is probably over, so we're specking out 16-foot wide gates. So I think there's plenty of room for, fire trucks and everything. And certainly here, our gate will have a clear span of 16 feet. So
Do you know at what point the road turns to private? Is it,
it's all private as far as I know.
okay,
It's private from the intersection of, I think it's public on Garner Avenue, and then Powerhouse Road, as I understand it, is all private.
Looking to see about the parking too, as far as emergency vehicles too.
Turn around.
Yeah.
So as far as the turnaround on our site, so we do have a kind of an L-shaped area. So this is designed for the big box truck
Right.
to be able to drive in, turn around and go out.
Not working too hard.
And then certainly down here, as you drive all the way down, there's ample area to turn around down here too. That's existing today.
I think there are already fuel trucks going down that road, Dylan.
There's gonna be no change to the amount of traffic on the road.
Right.
And, you know, part of our site plan application, I always provide information on the light fixtures. This is pretty routine. Most ordinance require a cutoff fixture, so you're not, you know, sending illumination all over the neighborhood.
Keep your-
So our standard spec is a cutoff light fixture for the outside lights. You're gonna have one for the door. The front door is not gonna be facing any of the residential properties. And the back door. We will have a gable end light kind of on the south side that will be facing the residential property line. However, that's gonna be on a switch, so that can just be used like if they're doing some maintenance at night or something like that, so. And it'll be on a motion sensor.
Nice.
And that will also be a cutoff fixture.
Very good.
Let me just see if there's anything else here I missed. Because there is a standard as far as illumination with foot candles, so we make sure we provide enough information to document that.
I think our electrical engineer is already doing a model for that.
Yeah.
Make sure it meets that ordinance.
Cool. Nice. Professional stuff.
And then as far as like the ordinance, as far as the noise, again, this is a sound attenuated enclosure on the generator. The generator, again, how often do you lose power, Keys or Falls?
We have lost power twice in the last.
When the wind blows.
Wind blows and rains.
For an extended period of time, it's been about twice in the last.
Yeah.
2 years.
So typically with these generators, since they're emergency, we're not using them to shed load or manage power company. So typical MO, they're set up to exercise typically once a week for like 15 minutes. And then obviously if there's a, power outage. But again, we've been routinely specifying these level 2 sound attenuated enclosures. The inside of them are all insulated. And given that the location, there's generally there's no issue meeting I think it's 55 decibels.
Yeah.
Again, since it's an emergency generator, it's not
You're all
going to be
set.
continuous.
Everybody's got one around here anyway.
Right.
Nobody hears their neighbors.
But what I've done in the past, I did have one project where there was we provided the information. They're like, okay, after construction, can you do a test just to confirm it? And we did do that. It's not an issue, so. So the other one, since it's a minor development, there's another requirement in the ordinance. And I think it relates to major developments, bigger projects, to do all these stormwater model calculations. So our interpretation is that with a minor development, that wouldn't be required, and that would be consistent with DEP's requirements as well. But I don't know if you guys have more experience.
Usually on your map, we like to see at least the direction of what your stormwater's
Yep.
heading.
Yep, we saw that. We already got that started.
Yep.
So we typically take the contours and do little flow arrows.
Once we got that, we're usually pretty
Yeah, that'll
good.
be in the application.
Do you know if anybody, any of the houses in, 500 to 1,000 feet of that area, are they all on main water or is anyone, I'm seeing a lot of houses and I'm worried about the amount of water we're taking out. Is there anybody on a well in that general area? No?
They're all with you guys.
Yeah, as far as I know, I think the only building is that derelict mill building out in the woods out behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would just, I'm not a hydrogeologist, but I know enough to be dangerous. So these new wells, these are shallow, roughly 60 feet gravel screen wells. Okay, so they're up high. There's an aquifer that's above the bedrock. So the drilled wells that a resident might
Way
have,
below.
they're like 700 feet below.
They'd be sucking out of your well.
So I just wanted to clarify, so they do have some existing bedrock wells. We're replacing those with these more modern gravel wells.
Gotcha.
So if there was a concern that, we could be impacting someone's well, I think we could show pretty easily hydrogeologic that we would not be. So, when we tested these wells, it was an extensive process. We actually pumped each one of these wells for 48 hours continuous and ran them both together for 48 hours. And the water level dropped just a couple feet. So it's really a good source. From a chemistry standpoint, the problem with water quality now, although it's meeting all requirements, iron and manganese is something that can cause color. And, knock on wood, that when we tested these wells, those levels were low. We're still going to be adding a chemical to kind of, as part of the existing lead and copper corrosion control and EPA requirements that will address and help, manage if there's any iron and manganese concerns in the future. The other things that we're doing is sodium hypochlorite for disinfection, which they're doing now. So we're not really adding any additional physical treatment to remove anything. We're sticking with the existing chemical treatment process. So that's a good thing. That's going to save money for the customers too. And operationally, with having a modern facility that's well insulated, it's going to, I don't know if you've ever been down to these existing facilities,
But yeah,
quickly see that they don't meet any modern standards for energy efficiency or safety and that sort of thing. So
what are you guys gonna do with the existing situation over there after this one's up and?
yeah, that's a good question. I think it's to be determined. There's some talk about, maybe maintaining one of the spaces. They have a kind of a break room or operator staging area there now. They may retain that for some functionality as an annex to this facility. But
To be determined.
Yeah, we're still discussing internally what we'll do with it.
Yeah. So. But we did, as far as other permits, our first step, we did get we had to go to Saco River Corridor Commission. So we did that, I think it was last month. Early on in the process, we discovered that this reservoir is connected to the corridor. They regulate anything within 500 feet of the corridor. We're actually 375 feet, I think, or something, right on the edge. But they had a pretty extensive process and application that we went through a month or so ago. And that's really, they required all the plumbing licenses for the holding tank, which we provided. And we do have their approval. I think the town got a copy of that approval. So, and then as far as DEP, the only things that we got to do for DEP, and it's really unrelated to the site development, we're going to be connecting in a new water service for the garage down here. And because we're likely to be within 75 feet of the reservoir, we have to do a permit by rule for DEP. It's a pretty simple process. It's really not related to the site plan process, but I just, for your information, And then obviously the utility installation in Powerhouse Road. I'm not aware of any, it's a private road. I don't think there's any local road opening permit because it's not a public road.
I haven't been there, but is the power above ground or below ground?
The power, okay, so the power line is above ground.
Above ground?
So if you happen to go over there, we actually met with CNP a couple weeks ago, the site planner. So one of the new wells is right here on the corner as you go down over the hill. And then they're going to be setting a new intermediate pole, pretty much right in this area, right here. And then they're going to go underground, under Powerhouse. And then there's going to be a they're going to go right to a meter on the back of the building. The transformer is going to be on the pole.
Okay.
So three-phase power. And then the meter will be on the side of the building. So that's all coordinated, so that taken care of a week or so ago.
Forward to seeing some more detailed plans.
Yeah, so, so that's our plan, is to finish up the application, and I think the deadline for submittal is March 7th.
March 5th, is that right? 15 days prior to the,
I have it as the 4th.
okay, good to know.
Say March
As
3rd.
long as I have it by the 6th.
You guys busy?
Because we'll be here for the workshop, as long as we have it by the 6th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
The sooner the better, but
You guys have questions or concerns?
Do we see some of the rest of the stuff?
Aaron, you look deep in thought there.
No, I'm trying to remember if there was anything else that I'd come across in my research. Because I looked at a bunch of it, looked at it, to kind of look through the ordinance and see. Yeah, from a parking standpoint, they don't need parking because it's not it's not called out in our parking, that they would need it. The lighting was one that, he already addressed. The question about other wells in the area was the main one, but that makes sense. No, that should be good. And you said you're looking to obviously hoping to have a decision at the March meeting?
yeah, hopefully, assuming, again, my goal is, we're going through and, we do a pretty thorough job on our submission, so I fully expect that we'll have a complete application.
Yep.
Certainly if something comes up that we haven't addressed, that we will, but we hope to be prepared enough to hopefully get approval at the meeting on the 20th.
Anything that you shared with Saco River Corridor,
Yep.
bring with you or
Yep.
provide, because typically when we go through situations where Saco River is involved, we'll get a situation where they'll be, oh, we already provided that to Saco River. Well, we need it too, so
Absolutely.
if you can provide that, and that kind of avoids that back and forth.
Yep.
I think we can also schedule, for our sake, a site walk and a public hearing for next month, just to get those, so that way if we do have everything, we can get them out the door with a March approval. Yeah, the checklist on the website, as you go through, basically just look at every item on that checklist, and it'll kind of outline what we're looking for.
Yep.
If you have any questions, email Desiree. She can
Absolutely.
answer it or let us, or have us
Yeah.
provide.
We've already started that process.
Yep.
We try to make these applications as easy for you as possible to just go through and check, and we try to design it so it kind of follows the checklist.
Yep.
The order of things.
Perfect. Yeah, and if there's something that's not applicable, literally just say, item G, not applicable.
Yeah.
And that way we can know as we go down through it that we have everything that we need, or it doesn't apply. And then we can just kind of keep that rolling. But yeah, we'll do that now, but we'll schedule the site walk.
Hearing.
And then the public hearing, we'll do it right before our March meeting.
Okay. And then as far as the site walk, once that's scheduled, can we we'd like to have someone attend that from Maine Water. And
Absolutely. Yeah, oh, yeah, you guys should definitely be there.
yeah, that
Yeah.
way, if there's questions, I can say driveway's right about here.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, given the stage of the project, right, it's gonna be, maybe stakes, maybe not, it may be just, picture in your mind that this is where a driveway in a building would be.
I think what I would like to do is, and I'm sure Dylan and his crew will help us out. We'll probably, because we got the gate there, we'll probably stake out the driveway entrance.
Yep.
I'll give them some swing ties to work on.
Didn't mean to give you homework.
No, it's fine. Well, I think it's good to, if you're gonna take the effort to make the site walk.
Yep.
to Visually see, okay, here's where we may even be able, because they have a GPS, I may be able to even stake out the corners of the building.
Yeah,
Okay?
perfect. Yep.
awesome.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then we can kind of get an idea of site-wise what it looks like and
Yep.
makes it easier once we get the maps, overhead maps are nice, but it's, once you're there, you
Oh, I know.
kind of understand, oh, this is a hill, this is,
Yeah, so this is a hill here.
Right.
Obviously, as you know, and then, you got a steep slope here, and then this kind of flattens out up in here, but it's elevated, and then you got the gravel pit here. So kind of one of our strategies is, we're gonna retain some of the existing excavation slope of the gravel pit. Of course, there's gonna be some clearing there, but we're gonna allow those natural slopes to the extent possible to just grow back up.
Yep.
So there'll be some natural buffering just from the slopes themselves.
Right.
We're gonna have to bring in roughly a couple feet of fill to get the building's gonna be roughly a foot above the road or something like, this is still gonna be pretty flat.
Yep.
So it's a flat site. But on this side, there'll be a little bit of reveal of that excavated slope remaining as part of that wooded buffer. So.
Person. We'll see it.
Yeah,
Perfect.
perfect.
Thank you very much.
A butters approval type situation?
What's that, sir?
Going around done any butters approval?
No, we haven't. I know there's a public notification process as part of the next step after this meeting. And it's a public hearing. So,
Part of the site plan application requires the butters notices to be out.
and
They
so,
got notices of the Saco River one as well.
yep. And then as far as the process for public notice, is that something the town does? You do that?
So as soon as we get the application, when I get the application from you guys, I double check the abutters and I send out the notices
Okay,
prior to our next meeting.
okay.
Which is why, as long as we have it by Wednesday, I can turn around and get those abutters notices out by the end of the week.
Okay.
So yeah, until I get the application from you guys,
Okay, I just want to make sure that was something we had to do.
Is the public hearing separate from the planning board meeting, or does it take place?
Yeah, it takes place right here,
Usually we do it prior.
just before the meeting.
Yeah. Okay. I set a site walk.
So keeping what we do historically, March 16th, the Saturday, yes.
so because this is a pre-app meeting, you guys are kind of jumping the gun a little bit. Because normally we have a regular meeting, not a
True.
pre-app meeting.
Yep.
So just want to throw that in there, so we don't get the application for the 6th. To do a butters notices and make sure we get proper notification. It's just all gonna run back to back really quickly.
Right.
So you're saying you usually do the site visit after
After we get the application.
Okay.
So normally we would review your application at the March meeting on the 20th.
okay,
At that meeting, we would schedule the sidewalk and the public hearing for the April meeting.
I see.
Okay.
Could that be the early April meeting? Like
They would have to call it as a special meeting because the first meeting in April is a workshop meeting.
I see.
So, excellent.
Well, to the extent we can work it in, that'd be great. Whatever your process is, we will follow.
Just,
Are you guys facing a deadline that you were shooting for March?
Well, we're trying to, our goal is to get this out to bid, just the quicker we get it out to bid, the feeling is the more likely we'll get better pricing. But, so that's kind of the goal from that perspective. we're going to start, the plan would be to, once this is out to bid, we're hoping to have the contractor on board, say by mid-May. And then hopefully if they have the resources, the labor, they can start construction this summer and more than likely, work through early part of 2025. The one thing lead time wise is generators. They're still over a year, so it's going to be a while before we have, this site's probably going to be up and running and operational before the generator shows up. But yeah, that would be the only concern. But we understand if there's what your process is.
Right.
But to the extent that we can get we'll get the application in as soon as possible. And then if you guys can, if it's possible to work it in, if not, we understand.
Work it in, it's be now or?
Yeah, because in April, it would be looking at April 17th is the regular planning board meeting.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, if there could be a special meeting earlier in April, if we have to go on that track, that would be preferable. Yep.
That's your call, isn't it, Aaron? The chairperson.
I just call it balls.
That's correct, Daniel. I'm over it. Desiree, it's correct. Aaron, as the chairperson, can call for a special meeting, correct?
That's what I was just looking at. So special meetings may be called by the chairperson or when requested to do so in writing by 3 members of the board or
Right.
officers.
Amen. If this time is of an essence for this project to get started. And
The other option, go ahead. I would say the other option is just to flip-flop your business and workshop meetings for April, if the board is so inclined.
to do our regular meeting in the beginning of April and do our workshop later.
Right.
It'll work.
That's a good idea.
Or do a split.
Why we keep her
workshop and
around.
meeting for the 17th.
That's right.
We have the site plan application in the beginning of March. Will we have time to get out for a public hearing and a site walk, which is part of our process before we have a special meeting to get an early decision?
Should be.
Not for the 20th. If we don't get the application till the 6th, the ad wouldn't go into the Sharper's Guide till the 13th. So we could have the public hearing, but you wouldn't be able to hold a site walk until the 20th. Because it has to be at least 7 days.
Which is the night of the meeting.
Right.
Be fresh in our heads, wouldn't it?
Another option is to move the March meeting a week.
I was gonna say, if we move March meeting from the 20th to the 27th, does that solve?
Yep, so we could do the application on the 6th, send the ad to the Shopper's Guide, have it posted for the 13th. You could site walk on the 23rd, public hearing on the 27th.
Wow.
And I would put in the abutters notices the site walk and public hearing.
That'd be the time.
I'm fine with that. I think that's.
Confuse the hell out of
That's
you.
a fair thing to do. To make sure that they can meet their deadlines.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be excellent.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Right, sorry, Jen, it's all right.
But Desiree, you're gonna send us a summary of all that, right?
Well, you guys gotta vote on it,
Yeah.
so, we gotta get through that first.
All right, so first we're gonna move the meeting.
Okay.
So I need a motion to move the March meeting from the 20th to the 27th.
I'll make that motion.
I second it.
All in favor? Okay, and then we need a motion for site walk on the 23rd at whatever time.
You guys have been doing usually at 10, maybe 9.
Go with 10.
Is early okay for everyone on
Earlier
Saturday?
Be on a
Early
weekend.
is great for me, I mean.
6 a.m. works.
Yeah.
Remember, it's still the winter month.
How about
Daylight.
8 p.m.?
7.
Daylight savings, I think the 10th is there.
Whatever you think. Good.
I know you're probably better earlier too.
Yeah, my world explodes like 10 in the morning.
So do you want to do 9?
That would be fine.
So I need a motion for a 9 AM site walk on 3/23.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? And need a motion for a public hearing on 27th at 6 PM.
I make the motion.
Second it.
All in favor? Beautiful.
May I make the suggestion? Are we done with our motions for this?
We are,
May I make a suggestion? We move Harvey up in case
absolutely.
I second it.
I make a motion that we move Harvey up for this project
Second it.
to voting member.
All in favor? Beautiful.
Could I do,
Question, so will all three of you, for sure as of right now, be here for the 27th?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I will be.
Because the only thing I'm thinking is Alan is technically in a butter. So do you?
He's gonna have to recuse himself, right?
Possibly. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to move Paul as well, if Alan does have to recuse himself.
Does Paul have to be here for us to?
I was gonna say Paul has to be here for
Be moved in.
for next week or next month for us.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if you.
If he's here, we'll move him up.
Okay,
Yeah. When Alan recuses himself, we'll move Paul up.
okay.
Yeah.
So what I will do is I'll get a this meeting affidavit ready for Paul, saying that he reviewed everything from tonight.
Beautiful.
Perfect. And,
Okay, so I think those ducks are in a row.
Ducks are road. Beautiful.
time to.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you accommodating as well.
Thank you very much.
Very nice to meet you. Have a great night. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Jen, do you have any questions?
Thanks.
Do you have any questions?
No.
We're still here.
Everybody's left in town and Jen.
Oh, hi, Jen.
I'll see you around.
Sounds great, yeah.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Motion to adjourn.
Too early.
I'm right behind you. I
You're a
left my phone
voting
in the
member,
car.
I second you.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, my page ripped. I didn't see the bottom.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Erin, were you comfortable with the water extraction thing? I know that was.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I looked up what the definitions were. Yeah. All right, FEMA draft ordinance, the floodplain management ordinance. So, I went to the meeting for York County for this, some point last week. Can't remember what day. They all kind of are one. But they had provided a draft ordinance, and I was very impressed that they had this much of a draft ordinance to create for us, not having any ordinance in place. They informed me that we actually do have an ordinance in place, and it's been so since May of 2000. And so they had forwarded over our current floodplain management ordinance that's in place. I don't know that it's ever had an update. It should have had updates. They sent over the should have updates, as well as the updates for the current one.
So is this their most current
This
suggestion?
is the most current with all of the updates. And so with this needs to, the new ordinance needs to be voted on by the town, approved by the town, by June 17th. And so what that, it will prevent any issues with any flood insurance for those that are impacted. And there's not a ton of impacted properties, obviously, but they're all sort of right along the river. And so anyone who has flood insurance would be impacted by not having a new ordinance in place. The changes are pretty minuscule, and really it's a lot of updating from, you know, what the law was in 2000 versus what the updated number is here in, 2024. And so it's a lot of that. I believe on the one that we received, I think I sent it and I think you sent it to everybody,
Well, you sent it just me,
to send to everybody.
to send to everybody.
Okay.
And then the 2,000 you sent to everybody,
Okay.
so I didn't have to.
So yeah, so for the updated one, it has like what was updated and with all the, the red line, all the information there. So take a look at that. We'll get that. I think for sort of to ease the community into this and not to inundate them with, yet another special town meeting on ordinances. I think if we can get this good to go and the LD 2003 updates and just do that as one meeting. I know we've got another one, next week? Another special town meeting next week? Yeah. And then, we'll have these two ordinances, hopefully.
We don't have one.
Good to go for either a May,
What time is that, Jen? Oh, okay.
May or early June, we can get a town meeting in to do that. But take a look at that. If you have any questions, I can obviously reach back out to Reagan. I see her quite often. She's actually running the point for SMPDC for this. The maps that are attached to it are not out and approved yet. They're still waiting on FEMA to send out the new and approved maps. For us, they shouldn't change much is what Reagan said, but they're just not out there yet. There's proposed maps out there. Ours shouldn't change much. It's the coastal impacts that are changing pretty significantly, especially given the recent storms. So ours shouldn't change much, but hopefully everything will be approved and ready to go. Questions?
Nope.
Nothing. Workshop for March 6th. I don't know that we need one. I think we've got the changes. Once I get back, I'll make those changes that we talked about and then send them out to everybody. And then we'll talk about this. We can talk about that in the next meeting. And then, so I don't know that we necessarily need one unless you guys are real excited to have a March meeting.
Ask that you might want to have a workshop on the 6th. Can I speak?
Of course.
Okay. So the select board was given a petition for the town to opt in to adult use cannabis. We denied the petition as submitted, but want to work with the petitioners because they're very anxious to have this move forward. Part of the petition was land use changes, zoning changes, along with different types of facilities that adult use cannabis would allow in the town. So next Tuesday, we are gonna meet with them to kind of redline and go through the ordinances that they have suggested. If we had accepted the petition, we would have had 10 days to give it to you guys, and you would have had 30 days to go through these zoning changes and work them. We're trying to allow enough time, because I know everything that you guys are going through and that we're dealing with too, in terms of getting this to move forward. So it may be that after Tuesday's select board meeting next week, we have some material that we can present to you as a planning board to review in terms of what they would like to see for zoning changes. We will have some input. We will have a lot of input, I think, into what we would like to see. There is a lot of local regulation of cannabis facilities that can happen. We've retained a new attorney who seems to be very much up to date on these kinds of laws, which is very helpful. I'm very happy. And so I'm just putting this out to you guys as like an FYI that you may want to keep that workshop scheduled in order to just maybe review, talk about, throw it around. I don't know what your agendas for workshop generally lead to or why you would do it, but.
So we voted against it and now they're petitioning to allow it.
Yes.
So that would overturn the vote?
In 2020, we opted out.
You opted
It's
out.
no longer considered opting out. There's no longer an opt-out clause in the state. It's only opt-in. Within 2 years, with the correct number of signatures, a citizen's petition can be given to the town and acted upon. So that's what's going on.
Okay.
Okay, so what would happen would be, changes in ordinances, informational meeting, and a town vote. Does the town want to opt into the adult use cannabis law rules with the following changes? And it would cover retail stores, cultivation, manufacture, and testing.
In zoning ordinances.
Yes, those would cover them. So it's a law. There is a law.
Then I would agree with Jen that we
Yeah,
should,
take a peek at it.
yeah.
They only have 30 days to respond.
No, because we denied this petition as submitted.
No longer by the people, for the people.
And it may be that next Tuesday, as a board, we don't even get through as much as we think we should in order to present it to you guys. So,
No, but once it hits the planning board, they have 30 days.
no, they'll have probably longer than that, because all of those rules are kind of thrown out once the petition is denied. So it kind of becomes the town's responsibility to take care of it in a timely manner. I mean, we,
5 days.
So that would be the 6th. Ernie, what are your thoughts?
Are they attempting to do a new petition?
They did the
Possibly.
petition.
they did, but to do one after possibly to do it, we would, we want to be able to.
Wouldn't they need to do a new one if you if you rejected theirs?
They could do one, I don't know that they need to do one.
So you could reject theirs, they could just reword it and come back to you and you could accept it, even though the people that signed it may not have seen the changing of the wording? It's interesting.
Different.
The people who sign, as you know, they have to have the ability to read through what petitioners are asking for.
Oh, for changes, yeah, okay, that makes more sense.
Yes, absolutely, that's what, no matter what.
So if they don't complete the petition, they can still get through what they need to get through? Is that what I'm reading?
Petition, right,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
so we're gonna be,
we're not trying to obstruct them from what they would like to bring to the town. So we would like to work with them in allowing the town to keep
Works for me.
keep the town's safety in mind too.
But I know where some of those are going.
That's pretty much where we're at right now.
You do too.
I do.
In the,
Okay, so
It is a
Henry
lot
building.
of.
Yep.
Are you on page 12?
I knew
sure am.
what's happening.
So there's a couple pieces of this. One is when an amendment is proposed by petition process, a fee to cover the cost of the public hearings must be paid by the petitioners. The amount of said fee is to be determined by the planning board.
Except for the fact that we did not accept their petition as submitted, so they wouldn't be, I don't believe that they're responsible for covering that cost.
So if you go back up to A, you have the three options. You have the planning board by the majority vote, through the selectmen, or through an individual or group. So we're throwing out the individual or group because their petition wasn't valid. So now we have gone back up to 2 as the selectmen are gonna be requesting that the planning board.
You're requesting us to review their rejected application, the rejected
What
petition.
we come up with as
Together with them.
Does anybody feel this is convoluted? Is it
So
just me
so
that
they've
feels
sent you,
very
they've
convoluted?
sent you a petition, you've declined it. You're gonna meet with them to go over and create an updated petition.
yes,
And then you as the selectman are gonna present that to the planning board
yes.
as the next step.
Not a petition, an amendment.
An amendment, right.
Okay,
To the original petition that was denied.
right.
Is this petition out there anywhere that we can see?
I didn't remember read this.
There'll be copies in the clerk's office.
Yeah,
Are they getting copies posted to the town
no.
website?
And then once you sent that to us,
Well, they're not gonna have a petition,
Not yet.
not at all.
So what you want to see are what they're proposing for changes, correct?
I'd like to see what they proposed first,
Select board.
to give it, to me, seeing what they proposed is important to see
What
in my
changes?
head why you rejected it
Okay,
before you guys rework it
It was-
to make it.
It was rejected because it didn't have the 10% of signatures needed. Correct. That-
no, okay.
that-
Timeline wise, they submitted a petition in September, which did not meet the 10% of the last gubernatorial election required number of signatures, which ended up to be 86. So 10% of the people that voted in our last presidential election are 86, okay? So they had to have 86 signatures, they did not. They resubmitted a petition in January that was also short of signatures. We could have rejected it then, but we allowed them a week to get enough signatures to make it legal, 86%. Or 10% rather.
so then from a procedure standpoint, once you send it to us, we have 30 days to hold a public hearing.
I don't think that that's true, because the only reason that would hold true is if we had accepted the petition in its entirety.
That would be on.
No, once you send us, once you refer whatever you come up with to us, so say it's next Tuesday, we have 30 days from that Tuesday.
Is that what you're reading in?
Correct.
Okay.
We have 30 days from receiving a properly initiated amendment to hold a public hearing on the proposal.
Right, that's why I'm thinking you might want to have your workshop if it's tight.
The problem is you can't vote at the workshop.
Well, we can't vote anyway. We have to have a public hearing before we even discuss it as a board.
Yeah, it's gotta be through a regular meeting
And it
anyway.
may be that we don't even have enough changes that we look at next Tuesday to give it to you for your workshop, so.
Unless they hold it for 10 days before they submit it to you, which they're allowed to do.
Hang on.
Well, the 10 days only counts as if they had accepted it as a petition.
Okay.
So if.
My head's
if
gonna
the
explode.
select
I just feel it's weird that it's been out there for 5 months and we're just now hearing about it.
And
Yeah.
decides to send it to you,
It's true.
you would have to call a special meeting.
No, I'd have to call a public hearing prior to whatever our next meeting would be, as long as we have 7 days of notice.
What about your chance to review it as a planning board to make sure that whatever, changes are legal in terms of zoning?
We don't. The planning board's part in this process is we hold the public hearing, and then we make a recommendation whether to accept it or not accept it. But this is not a accept it yes or accept it no, this is a recommendation to the town, and then the town votes. If we recommend accept it, it's simple majority. If we recommend not, it's 2/3.
So, once we get it from you guys, we have 30 days to hold the public hearing. So if you give it to us next Tuesday, 30 days from next Tuesday, we have to have the public hearing.
Okay.
Then 30 days from that public hearing, within those 30 days, the board needs to make a decision on the recommendation.
Makes more sense.
So in that situation, given the dates of our meetings, we would hold the public hearing on the 27th, which is our next regularly scheduled planning board meeting. And then we would have to have a decision by the April 17th meeting. Or April and May, or May and June, whatever the two, as long as it occurs 30 days.
Back to back.
Yeah. If it's more than 30 days, we'd have to have a special meeting of the board to discuss whether we recommend approve or recommend not. But we don't have any input on content from
So you guys.
as a board standpoint.
As the selectmen, you guys need to make sure what you are gonna give to us is exactly what you want to put in front of the town.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe the planning board review of it was to make sure that what we want is consistent with.
That's up to you guys.
Because it would be involve changing ordinances anyway, so it wouldn't matter if it was consistent with our ordinances now, right?
Right, it would be, these would be all net new adds to the ordinance.
Which still need to be special meetings voted.
Whenever you.
And there may be other things like limiting numbers of, you know, stores,
Yep,
testing sites.
Road.
yeah, whatever those limits are would have to be in the document that's received by us.
So again, however stringent the select board wants to be, whatever they send us, that needs to be the time.
A lot of gray area in this bullshit.
It just seems weird to me that we're just hearing about it.
I would
Yeah.
think.
Yeah,
Because we
And it
will
seems
be
like we're trying to be pushed through it.
commissioners Also, they'll
Yeah.
be there.
well, that too, huh?
And
We already know about you.
there's always the possibility that there will be disagreements between.
Yeah,
Still like to read it too as well.
well, there's nothing, right now, there's nothing to read,
I know,
right?
but yes, but
Oh, yeah, for sure. When they send it to us, we'll all get a copy and then we'll have, from when we get it to the next meeting, to the public meeting, and then to the next 30 days after that, to the next,
I don't know if you remember in
Meeting.
2020 how, you know, it's going to be contentious, I'm sure, no matter what.
oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's a hot button issue.
it
It's,
is, and it's confusing. It's a confusing issue, and there's lots of regulations out there. Some new ones.
Were these,
Not medicinal, it's recreational.
right.
was this presented at the selectmen's meeting?
Tuesday,
Yeah.
we did talk about it.
It was that one in January, like the middle of January. I remember,
Yeah, we got a copy of the petition, I think.
I just remember seeing JP on the screen.
We talked about it this past Tuesday. We met with JP on,
Yeah, I just never, this is the first I've heard of it,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
since it happened last September,
we don't get out much, David.
9 months ago.
right,
No, I've been waiting for the word to come through that they.
I'm not shocked at all.
no.
I'm surprised, but
Yeah, I mean,
Been coming along.
the reason why I was asking is I'm just interested to see what the original information said that people didn't really care for before we.
We voted,
amend
we
it.
voted down last time.
or why we voted it down last time?
Why? No, I already know about that.
Okay.
Versus this original, I guess this new, or this one.
The reason that the petition was denied was because in speaking with several of the signers, they did not know what they were signing for. They didn't have, they didn't approve anything. So it was decided that that's, you know, it's a tough read, that's tough, that's not really the best way to handle it. Especially when it's such a,
Not very
It's a hot
democratic,
topic.
but very democratic.
Well, there. Well, we look forward to hearing how that goes.
Yeah, I do.
So back to that, are we gonna skip this workshop or are we posting? We have to decide that.
I don't know.
I understand your topic that we really don't have a lot. We can
Yeah, I mean, we can,
read through it and say we just,
Do you want to schedule it and we'll touch base on Monday if you guys want to?
Probably
we
you.
won't know any more today than we know Monday though, because they're meeting on Tuesday.
Monday before the workshop.
No, Monday before the workshop.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, we can,
If there's nothing to see, we can.
If we haven't received anything from the select board or anything like that, we'll cancel. If you don't have anything from SMPC, like we do have something on
yeah,
wait and see what happens.
hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
All right, so then we need a motion to have,
I make a motion to hold the workshop to review the petition before the selectmen. Is that what you want for wording?
I second it.
all in favor?
that. You want to keep it more generic than just the petition, just in case.
In case we have other things to talk about. I amend my motion to host a workshop so we can have discussions about planning board matters, upcoming matters.
I second it.
All in favor?
I make,
Public comment,
Go for it. Steve.
nothing? No public comment,
I'm in public.
all right.
I make,
Adjourn?
felt like you were looking at.
Second it?
You guys are both perfectly lined up for me.
Aye.
All in favor?
That's why I didn't want to like sit there.
Adjourned.
Adjourn, see you later, bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Time to find my recliner.